Quickly we crossed with our new friends the Libyan border into Egypt and made ourselves comfortable at the campsite in Cairo. Then we visited the pyramids of Giza, which had impressed us very much, and visited the Sphinx with its broken nose. Not far from Cairo we saw the bent pyramid, where we held a picnic in the shade and saw the red pyramid at sunset. Through the Nile Valley we went back to Cairo, where we started into the desert. Of course, we sank the car in the sand, were freed by the friends, and enjoyed the beauty of the white desert. In the evening we found a great place to stay in the middle of the dunes and spent a quiet night. We leave our bush camp early in the morning. I am amazed that our car is not so bad in the sandy terrain and is surprisingly off-road suited, although we do not have four-wheel drive. Meanwhile, we have already penetrated deep into the desert. We want to go to El Khazar and there visit a ruined city. For now we make a stop in a cafe at the roadside. There are no tourists. The locals sit quietly at their coffee and smoke shisha, the water pipe. Time has a different dimension here than in the Western world. Stress and work pressure do not exist here. Nature determines the time, and human achievements such as techniques are all too fleeting in the vastness of nature. El Khazar is one of the most fascinating cities in Egypt. It is a late medieval city with many buildings that are still well preserved. The houses date from the 16th century, some even go back to the 12th century. The city is built from mud bricks. All the more remarkable is that it has not fallen down more over the centuries. It is completely uninhabited. The current inhabitants live in more modern buildings around the old city. It is also worthwhile to visit the old flour mill, which, although it does not seem so, even today is still functional. The narrow covered streets remain cool during the hot summer, which we know to appreciate. Over the entrance doors are wooden door frames where the year of construction, name of the owner, and a verse from the Quran are carved. Also interesting is the house of Abu Nafir. A pointed arch frames the entrance. The house is bigger than the buildings in the neighborhood. It was built from mud bricks, but also stones from ancient buildings were used. We leave El Kazaa and drive back to the main road. From there we have a beautiful view of the oasis city with its minaret and the old houses. El Kazaa is part of the Dakla oasis. The oasis consists of several separate settlements, just as El Kazaa, Mood, Balad and Bashendi. The oasis with its palm trees, orchards and fields looks like a beautiful mirage in the desert. Picturesque mud brick villages are surrounded by lush greenery. About 100,000 people live in the oasis. They live on agriculture: rice, wheat, mangoes, oranges, and of course olives and dates are grown here.
Fahren Sie 30
We
Kilometer.
want to look for a campsite outside the city. After days of bush camping, it is good to have functioning sanitary facilities and electricity supply. Our water resources need to be supplemented. Therefore, the Bedouin camp is excellent. We find refuge on a forecourt of the camp. It is picturesquely situated on a hill from where you have sweeping views over the oasis and the desert. In the distance you can see a mosque, built in the lonely landscape. It is more recent and is typical for the area. Even the oasis village Mood is clearly visible from here, nestled on the rugged rocky chain of the desert. From the Bedouin oasis village, camel tours are offered into the desert. The hotel is relatively new and was built in traditional style, with a lot of domes and wards. We stay only one night, and this morning we drive into town to stock up our food supplies. The farmers are already on their way into the city to offer their goods on the market. Before shopping, however, we have coffee in the center of the city. With good Arab coffee, we discuss our shopping list. We are desperate to eat meat again that had already existed for some time, not on our menu. For this, we need to find a butcher. The butcher cannot cope with our wish for steaks and deposit the knife into Bine's hand. She has to cut herself what we need. Now we are overwhelmed, because where is the steak in a kettle? Because unlike in the Western world, there are halves of beef hanging on a hook from the roof, from which the butcher cuts out the meat by weight. The price does not depend on the quality of the piece, but on the weight. Everything is the same price. The butcher cannot watch our doings anymore and intervenes. From one whole piece he cuts out pieces for us, unusual for him, but he wants to help. At least they look like steaks. All have fun and it's much laughter about the cultural differences that come together here. With our, in the truest sense of the word, fat catch, we go on. We spent a lot of time shopping, and so it is getting late and we need soon accommodation. We are now already 90 days on tour and we get increasingly doubts whether we will be in Cape Town in 142 days. We are slowly getting used to the traffic rules here, and thus we find a line of no overtaking also as just as street decoration as the locals do. On the roadside suddenly a sign to a campsite appears. We turn off and find ourselves on a beautiful desert camp. The owner is a nice guy but cannot speak English, nor do we speak Arabic. but we have fun together. He even has a small kitchen where he prepares tea for us. We welcome this invitation and sit for some time together with him. The accommodation consists of simple bed frames under the open sky. We do not qualify because we sleep in our vehicles directly at the dunes. It will be one of the most beautiful bush camps in the desert. Next morning we set off to our last part through the Libyan desert. We want to reach the Nile at Luxor in the evening. To Luxor it is 300 kilometers, which should be done on good asphalt roads in 4 to 5 hours, provided there are no car problems. First we have to get from the camp to the paved road. Sadly we leave this beautiful place. Through soft sand passages we have to get momentum so we do not get stuck in the sand. To prevent this we reduce tire pressure depending on the difficulty of the terrain to 1.5 bar instead of 4.5 bar. On tarmac we increase pressure with our compressor. Our days are numbered in Egypt. We will then have to overcome one big hurdle, the Lake Nasser reservoir. The loading of the vehicles will be a real horror as the vehicles are only loaded onto a pontoon while the passenger must ride on the ferry. For us it is even more risky because our dog Tara has to travel on the pontoon and we have to go with the passenger ferry. The problem in fact is that the pontoon sails for 2 days and the ferry takes 1 day, which means that Tara has to be 2 days and nights without us. The conditions and circumstances are very unclear. We hear many stories of dogs that were lost on the way. Of course we are concerned about the question of food, water, and Tara must also do her business. The closer this day comes, the more anxious we feel as we do not want to lose Tara. We must find an alternative which we do not know yet. The decision as we organized the ferry is a press for the time being. We are now on asphalt and want to go to Luxor. Only in Aswan a solution has to be found. The road is excellent and we are progressing well. We can make speed after a long time. We really press the gas pedal and the scenery flies past. Because of good roads, we already reached the Nile Valley around lunchtime. Most houses are situated along a tributary of the Nile. It is interesting to observe how people live here. Here at Luxor, sugarcane is grown. Again and again we see the tractors with trailers fully loaded to deliver the harvest. We are heading to the only campsite of Luxor. We want to stay here a few days because there is a lot to see in Luxor. The site is not exactly idyllic, but right in the center. Here we meet a German-Mexican couple who is traveling with a tent and bike through Africa. After all, we are not bad here. Have hot showers and electricity supply. Actually, it's not a campground, but rather a hotel with patio rented to campers. The situation we will have even more often, for campsites are rare in Africa. The Nile is wonderful and great atmosphere prevails on its banks. The Nile rises in the mountains of Rwanda and Burundi and flows into the Mediterranean. It flows through Tanzania, Uganda, Sudan and finally Egypt, where it empties into the Mediterranean Sea. 6,671 kilometers from its source, it lays back down to the sea and belongs with the Amazon to the largest rivers in the world. Immediately on the banks of the Nile are also major attractions, such the Temple of Karnak. I'm completely amazed how things have changed here after 25 years. The tourist influx is huge and it is difficult to enjoy the ancient atmosphere. The Karnak temple is not only a temple, but a collection of temples, obelisks and pylons. It covers an area of 1.5 kilometers by 800 meters. During the rule of the pharaohs, 80,000 people worked here. For over nearly 2,000 years, it was rebuilt and changed. You enter through the avenue of ramps, and here originally a canal was leading to the Nile. Through the avenue, we get to the first pylon, which has remained unfinished. The Great Square is the widest square of the temple complex. On the left there is the Temple of Seti, in the middle the Kiosk of the Harka, far right a columned arcade. Most impressive is probably the Great Hall of Columns. 6,000 square meters is the base area, a spectacular sight. A forest of 134 towering columns. They were originally painted in bright colors and the hall was roofed. Also impressive is the pair of obelisks in front of the former entrance to the main temple. We stroll through the site and are overwhelmed by these huge buildings. From the intense cultural pleasure tired, we have a culinary pleasure. Falafel sandwich. Falafel are fried balls of mashed beans or chickpeas, herbs and spices. It is thought that the recipe originated here, from the Christian Copts created as a fasting meal. From the old town you can see the Luxor temple, the second of the highlights of the city. The Luxor temple fulfilled two tasks. At New Year, the Sed festival was celebrated. The statues of the gods Amun, Mut and Khonsu were brought here in portable boats from the 2.5 kilometers distant Karnak temple. The celebration lasted for 11 days initially, then 27 days. The second task was to renew the deification of the king, which was done each year from the accession to the throne and was celebrated here in the temple. Well preserved is the first pylon, which was built by Ramses II. The pylon is decorated with representations of the heroic deeds of Ramses. In front of the 24-meter-high wall are some colossal statues of Ramses II and an obelisk from rose granite. Well preserved are also the colonnades and the courtyard of Amenhotep III. Interestingly, there was built a mosque in the middle of the temple later. This is the Abu al-Haggag Mosque, which was dedicated to a local saint and sheikh. The entrance is outside the temple area. We want to sit a little while at the Nile bank and watch the activities here. The ferry connects Luxor with Guma, an important link because the ferry brings the employees of hotels and tourism businesses from their homes over to Luxor to work. It is quite interesting that the ship was built in the shape of a sunbark and has quirky tips. The Nile was up to the 19th century the only way between northern and southern Egypt. For centuries it was the most important transport route. There was no easier and faster way to transport goods, to send messages and to travel to other parts of the country. Probably the first boats were simple, made from papyrus. These boats were used for hunting by the pharaohs and used to travel only short distances. Even more elaborate wooden boats were known. They had several oars, a long narrow sail and a rudder. In the Middle Ages, the Nile was sailed by 36,000 ships. The simple sailing boats are called felucca. A trip from Cairo to Luxor would take 2 months, with favorable wind. Traveling on the Nile has dramatically changed when Thomas Cook in 1869 brought his first tour group to Egypt and housed them on 2 steamships. Thus the package holiday was born. Instead of the simple steamers, huge cruise ships now cross the Nile with the comfort of stylish hotels. The schedules are strictly observed, because the Nile is much traveled. But we do not want to make a Nile cruise, but have ordered a taxi driver to the campsite because we want to go to the temple of Hatshepsut. As agreed, he expects us at the entrance. With hiking boots and plenty of water equipped we start. Mohammed is delighted because we really have a pier. He says that he is sometimes ordered by some tourists, but then they do not show up, what may well be due to an aggressive type of advertising of the sky. The most crowded world rickety shore that goes to the other side of the Nile. After a short trip, we face the huge building of Hatshepsut. From the desert plain rises over several terraces the temple complex. This temple is perfectly built into the limestone of the eastern slope of the Theban rock. Around the temple there are a number of cave tombs. The Hatshepsut temple is one of the most beautiful monuments of ancient Egypt. Over a 37-meter wide access, you get to the three huge terraced courtyards. The steps are each disposed through colonnades. Ramps link them. The excavations began in 1891 and lasted 5 years. Hatshepsut was the daughter of Thutmose I. Due to lack of succession to the throne, Hatshepsut was appointed regent. She ruled for 15 years with the support of the priests. On the way back we stop at the huge colossi of Memnon. The two 18-meter high sitting faceless statues are remains of the funerary temple of Amenhotep III. The temple was said to be huge, but due to its location in the flooding zone of the Nile, nothing but the statues are left anymore. With the visit of the statues we end our stay in Luxor. Tomorrow we shall continue along the Nile to Aswan, where we have to make bookings for the ferry across the Lake Nasser. Tomorrow we shall continue along the Nile to Aswan, where we have to make bookings of the ferry across the Lake Nasser. Next morning we move towards Aswan. The collecting taxis are already on their way as well. These are pickups which have built up in the back a cab and cover the local transportation. Most are open at the back, up to 12 people are transported on the truck bed. Would you like to get off? You stamp your foot or knock on the window of the cab, then it stops. In some places there are also three-wheeled bubble cars that are operated as taxis but only find use in urban areas. The journey is varied and leads through villages or directly along the Nile. Since the road is good, one must not focus so much on the road, and we see several interesting things on the roadside. the whole Arab world, transports are quite unusual. Cattle are transported on the pickup, a strange sight. After only a few driving hours and wonderful views of the Nile, we are approaching the city of Aswan. We plan to go on the other side of the Nile to camp. Shortly before reaching Aswan, we cross the Nile on a fairly new bridge to Adam's Camp. Adam's Camp no longer exists, but we find a very nice alternative at the Nubian captain called Ashraf. In the courtyard of his house we can find accommodation. There are already a Dutch couple who we met in Cairo for the first time. The location of the camp is great, on the edge of a Nubian village in the middle of the desert. Ashraf also rents rooms in Nubian style. They are rooms in traditional mud houses. You will sleep on carpets on the dirt floor, as still practiced by the Nubians today. Special luxury is a ceiling fan, which reduces the heat if there is electricity, which here is far from normal. The rooms lead directly into the courtyard. Meals you have outdoors under a thatched canopy. Toilets and bathroom are across the court in an extra building. Theoretically there is also hot water if there is electricity. The rule should be that we draw water from a provided barrel. Next day we climb up the nearby hill and enjoy the panoramic views of the Nubian village and the slowly flowing Nile. About Nubian architecture we know very little abroad. The traditional houses are made from mud brick. In Nubia the roofs are often dome-shaped or arched. Further south they are mostly flat. They are plastered or painted and beautifully decorated. Nubians have their own marriage traditions. The celebration will take up to 15 days. On the first night the bride and groom celebrate separately with friends and family. The second night the bride moves her party into the house of the groom and all are dancing until the morning. Then the bride goes back into the family home. Her hands and feet are painted with henna. Even hands and feet of the groom are decorated with henna. On the third day the groom takes his guests in a procession to the house of the bride. The whole day is sung and danced. The bridegroom is 3 days in the house of the bride. Then the couple is building an own house. The settlement area of the Nubians extends from southern Egypt into northern Sudan and was a homogeneous area of settlement. The Nubians were originally Christians. In the 12th and 13th century, the attacks by Egypt against Nubia increased. 1315, the last Christian king of Nubia has been replaced by a Muslim and the majority of the population converted to Islam. When the Sudan was in 1899 English condominium, a border was drawn between Egypt and the Sudan, 40 kilometers north of Wadi Halfa, and so Nubia was divided. Thus many Egyptian Nubians have relatives in Sudan, as well as our friend Ashraf. The Nile has always determined the fate of the Nubians. When the Aswan Dam was completed in 1902 and increased in 1912 and 1934, the water of the Nile rose slowly from 87 meters to 121 meters. However, many buildings were flooded. In the 1930s, many Nubian villages disappeared under the water masses. Many homeless Nubians moved to Egypt, where they bought land and built new villages. Most Nubians assumed that the flow patterns would not change and remained at their original homes and rebuilt their houses on new land, slightly higher. But the water level rose again. Date plantations, the main income of the Nubians, were destroyed. Many Nubians were forced to seek work in the north and left their families. Less than 30 years later, the building of the new high dam forced people to move again. As Ashraf we go to Aswan. At the Mercedes, the oils must be changed and seals have to be renewed. The road is not paved and the dust is terrible. I wonder how people can survive here in this dust. Again the ferry comes to my mind. Today is Wednesday, the ferry will start Monday, we still need to go to the ferry office. I would like to try that Tara is with us on the passenger ferry, or I can go with her on the pontoon. If we do not find a solution, we will return and our goal, Cape Town, has failed. We do not want the animal to suffer. There are still some formalities to be done. Our Sudan visa had expired by the delay with our diesel problems in Tunisia and must be renewed. Then we have to be unsubscribed from Egyptian immigration and bring back the number plates to the police. Still a lot to do. But for now the truck has to be maintained. Ashraf is a respected person in his village, almost like a village chief, and has many contacts, also knows a lot of people in Aswan. He knows a good workshop, he brings us there. Furthermore, we learn that the captain of the pontoon that Tara would have to go with is his cousin, and he would talk to him so that he takes care of our dog. Feed her, give water, and go for a walk on the pontoon. This gives us hope. For centuries, Aswan was Egypt's southernmost city and the gateway to Africa and to the now flooded Nubia. Moreover, It was a prosperous trading center on the crossroads of ancient caravan routes, which can unfortunately not be seen today. Nevertheless, the atmosphere is relaxed here, and all travelers who want to continue deeper to Africa must stay here a few days for a break and wait for the ferry. Aswan has about 500,000 inhabitants and is the fourth largest city of Egypt. Rain is very rare in Aswan and can even fail over decades. The temperatures are high here, from June to August to well over 40 degrees centigrade. Even in January, the temperatures are climbing to 25 degrees. Due to the absence of rain, the whole city is enveloped by a layer of dust. People have learned to live with it. We learned as well. We are at the garage and the workshop appears to be well equipped. Bodo goes to work immediately and checks the oil levels. It should be replaced. Engine oil and filter, gear oils and axle oils must be renewed, and the seal must be replaced because here the truck loses oil. Ashraf is very helpful and translates between Bodo and the mechanics. Spare parts are of course not in stock. Also there's no oil. All these needs to be bought before. While the discussions are in progress and the mechanics get the parts, Ashraf proposes to go to a canteen to have lunch. We are admired here because foreigners never eat here. The food is excellent and consists of sausages, stews, bread and eggs. Ashraf has a felucca and we agree with him to spend a day with the felucca on the Nile. Back in the workshop, the truck is almost ready, everything was done properly and we are glad that everything worked out. Now it goes back to the campsite to the other bank of the Nile. From here we will start our felucca sail tomorrow.